welcome to another election show. Atul and I are back on the road and we are going to be covering the Karnataka Assembly election for the next 8 days. This is our first show from Bengaluru, and before we get into all the exciting political action, we have some very interesting announcement for you.
The News Minute and the Newslaundry are coming together. We are forming an alliance which will be committed towards public interest journalism. So from now on, you will see the two news organizations come together to do stories. But not just that, we'll also have a joint strategy for our growth.
Newslaundry and the News Minute have supported each other over the past few years. We share similar ethos and similar values. And the coming together of these two forces will ensure and strengthen collaborative journalism. Because together, we're stronger.
हमें उम्मीद है कि इन दोनों संस्थानों का ये गठजोड़, ये मिलाव एक अच्छी पत्रकारिता, एक अच्छी शुरुआत होगी और साथ में दोनों संस्थानों को मजबूत करेगी, हमारी रचनात्मक क्षमता में बढ़ोतरी करेगी। न्यूज़लॉन्ड्री अपनी ऑडियो विजुअल मीडिया में लंबे अनुभव के लिए जाना जाता है। न्यूज़लॉन्ड्री मीडिया पर नज़र रखने के लिए जाना जाता है। वहीं दूसरी तरफ द न्यूज़ मिनट है जो कि अपनी गहरी पड़ताल और ग्राउंड ज़मीनी रिपोर्ट के लिए जाना जाता है। दक्षिण भारत के राजनीतिक और सामाजिक जो समीकरण है उस पर गहरी पकड़ के लिए जाना जाता है। तो इन दोनों संस्थानों का जो ये मिलाव है एक अच्छी पत्रकारिता की नींव रखेगा और इसमें हमें उम्मीद आपसे है, हमारे वो जो श्रोता हैं, जो हमारे दर्शक हैं, इन सब लोगों से मिलकर एक हम नई शुरुआत करने की कोशिश करेंगे। इसमें हमें आपके समर्थन की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी क्योंकि एक साथ मिलकर ही हम सब मजबूत हो सकते हैं, सक्षम हो सकते हैं।
This election season, you will have a lot of Delhi media come in. Give them tips and advice.
Don't come.
This term that has been coined, right, 40% Sarkara, has caught on.
My Hindi is so good. So, yeah.
Karnataka has already had a caste census.
According to that leak, the numbers of Lingaites and Vokalikas drastically had reduced.
You're targeting a vendor who's making daily wages by selling something. Is that how you even fight a religious fight? I mean, if they had the guts.
We have some very interesting and amazing announcement to make.
No, I'm supposed to say immediately. I thought you were going to go to some long shot.
Another election show की शुरुआत करते हैं हम। बेंगलोर से हमारा पहला शो है।
Yes, so just to brief our audience a little bit on the elections. The elections are going to be on May 10th and we're going to have results on May 13th. There are about 223 seats, right? And the halfway mark is 113. Now, Karnataka has seen 3 chief ministers over the last 10 years. H.D. Kumaraswamy, then Yediyurappa, and then Bommai.
Yes.
And I think one of the most interesting things for us when we first landed here is that corruption is quite a big issue here and it's being raked up by Congress in a very big way. And I think this is possibly one of the very few state elections where the opposition is trying to corner the BJP on corruption. Just to give our audience a little bit of context, some important headlines on corruption that made news in Karnataka. 2021, the Karnataka State Contractors Associations write to Prime Minister Modi alleging large-scale corruption. Then 2022, you have the associations representing at least 13,000 schools in Karnataka writing to the Prime Minister, again accusing the Mumbai government of corruption. You have the Bharat Jodo Yatra that launches its campaign in Karnataka with this slogan or a campaign called Pay CM, which is to say that you have to, give a cut whenever you want something done. And then January 2023, the head of the Karnataka State Contractors Association specifically makes an accusation against Chitradurga BJP MLA. Dhanya, what I want to know from you is how real is this an issue on the ground and how much of an impact is it going to make for the BJP?
See, corruption is definitely a part of the conversation now. And what makes it very different, for example, we have had many governments which have faced accusations of corruption, right? But for example, when B.S. Yediyurappa was made to resign, it came from the Lokayukta, which made the allegation that there was illegal mining going on and there was quid pro quo. Whatever happened to that case? Now here, it is not the opposition, the Congress, which has been raising the allegation. It has come from third parties, which is the Contractors Association, the RUPSA, which is the Teachers Association. Then there is a PSI exam, which is for the sub-inspector exam. That is a huge controversy. That was the only one where the Congress actually brought forward the entire thing. So when the associations, which have largely been apolitical, which have been working with no matter what government comes to power, because contractors have their own world, right? They work with every government, they know how to pay the bribes. When those guys come out and say that, look, the previous government we paid 10 to 20%, now we have to pay 40% and that's not done, that definitely is a hit for the BJP government, because this is not an opposition-led allegation. These are associations alleging.
Who are making. Pooja, when you travel on the ground, how much of resonance do you see with this issue among regular folks?
There definitely is a lot of resonance, because if you remember last time around in 2018, when Prime Minister Modi was in Karnataka, he had coined the term 10% Sarkar, and he was referring to the then Siddaramaiah-led government, saying that they have to pay 10% for every project. Now the Contractor Association now took that one step forward, and mind you, they said that they were voters of BJP, they were supporters of BJP, and they were forced to come out in the public and speak against the party they've been supporting. So that's a very serious allegation. And this term that has been coined, right, 40% Sarkara, has caught on. And I can see this in northern parts of Karnataka, in central, southern part of Karnataka, Bangalore. It's a big thing. So in that sense, I think there is a huge dent for the BJP's campaign against corruption, because when Prime Minister Modi comes down here, he cannot any longer just keep accusing the Congress of being corrupt, because people will ask, what about your own government here?
In fact, I think, was it Siddaramaiah's statement that said that the Prime Minister is going to be doing around 20 rallies,
Yes,
I think. So
yes.
I think it's he who said that he can do 20 rallies, but he can't remove corruption.
Yeah, it was an
Absolutely.
interview to Pooja, he said
Yeah.
that. But I'll just point out, there was this one instance when Amit Shah had come to Karnataka and he spoke about corruption. He said that if you want a corruption-free government, vote for the BJP. Sometimes I feel like these speeches are written without any sync to the ground, right? Like your government is facing corruption charges day in and day out. The one thing you can do is avoid the topic completely. But to come and say that we will give you a corruption-free government, and 2 days later, an MLA and his son are caught with crores in their house, just 2 days later after this speech. Of course, that guy has not been given a seat again to contest. That's the only damage control they could do.
So what's been the BJP's damage control plan? Like, have they gotten rid of some faces which have specifically been, kind of
Yes,
the whole new,
But the Tippareddy legislator, the Chitradurga legislator that you mentioned, has been given a ticket again, right? So I think they're only
Even
focused-
Moniratna, the Bangalore
Moniratna has been given
MLA,
a ticket again.
But there is one MLA, the
Virupakshappa.
Virupakshappa.
he did not get a ticket.
He did not get a ticket, also because I don't know if he can even contest, because he was arrested and the case is still on, so it's a bit of an
So
issue.
is he still absconding, or is
No, he was
signed out?
arrested.
No,
He was arrested, he got bail.
He got bail,
But the point is, damage control, what is the damage control? From the time any allegation is made, the Chief Minister will come, B.S. Yedurappa will come, everybody who matters will come and say, there is nothing, no truth to this, but we will probe. There is no truth to this, but we'll probe. In the case of a contractor called Santosh Patil, who died by suicide, he in fact wrote a letter apparently which said that he holds one minister, Ishwarappa, responsible for his death, because the money which he had for building a road was not released to him. There was a probe and Ishwarappa was given a clean sheet. So every time there's an allegation, they will just say there is no truth to it, but we'll probe. And the second thing that has been done is litigation. For example, there is a defamation case against the Contractors Association given by the BJP MLA. I think it's around 50 crores. They were also arrested. They got out on bail. But that is the intimidation, right?
The
You speak
80-year-old president was arrested.
Yes.
He's 80 years old and
Yeah.
he was
Contractors
arrested
Association's
at
president.
Yeah, for a few hours,
Yes.
yes, he was arrested. But the point is, it is intimidation. You speak about corruption. First, they'll ask you, where is the proof? Now, half the time, there is no proof because you're handing over bribes in cash, right? So, unless you are telling the Lokayukta to come and do a raid, where is the proof going to come from? Will this impact the BJP? We can't say in numbers, but definitely there is a conversation as far as corruption goes across Karnataka. People are talking about it, and that definitely has dented the BJP.
There was another thing BJP tried. At the beginning, they said, like Dhanya said, bring proof. Obviously, if somebody is giving cash, you can't, there's no trail, right? When they realized that too many people are talking about it and they no longer can say, give us proof, they did try to dig out a few old scams, right? They tried this with Siddaramaiah, but it's a bit too late, right? And it looks like you're just, they also tried to counter this Pay CM, campaign, but it wasn't as catchy.
What was the counter campaign?
They said Pay Sidhu. And they had similar posters and all that. So it didn't catch on. Then they
इसमें
reverted
एक चीज़
back.
और मैं समझना चाहता था धन्यम कि एक तो ये हम समझ रहे हैं कि देयर आर कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स जो कि गवर्नमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स हैं, बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, उसमें से कट बना रहे हैं लोग अलग अलग। बट दिस करप्शन गोज़ टू द कॉमन पीपल, नॉर्मल लेमैन्स, उनकी भी लाइफ किसी तरह से अफेक्ट हो रही है कि डे टू डे लाइफ में वो करप्शन से परेशान हैं, उनको झेलना पड़ा, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली जो पॉलिटिकल इशू बनता है वो अगर लेमैन अफेक्ट के ऊपर उसकी डे टू डे लाइफ अफेक्ट हो रही है उससे, तो इट शुड बिकम अ पॉलिटिकल इशू फॉर पॉलिटिकल। अदरवाइज लार्ज स्केल पे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स, गवर्नमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स में करप्शन तो लोगों को पता है कि होता रहता है, वो एक पॉलिटिकल कैंपेन, एक नारा हो सकता है, बट अगर नीचे तक वो नहीं जा रहा है और उससे आम लोग अफेक्ट नहीं हो रहे हैं तो बहुत ज़्यादा लोगों को फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता, ठीक है चलता होगा ऊपर कुछ।
अभी हिंदी में I have to answer, right?
You can
नहीं,
speak
you
in
I'm just
English.
rewiring my
You can
brain.
speak in
You can
English.
speak in English.
हाँ नहीं नहीं.
No, you can speak in English.
Yeah.
seriously.
But I'm trying to speak in
Okay.
Hindi.
It's good.
Yeah. मुझे ये नहीं पता कि लोग ऐसे समझते हैं कि वो भी अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं। अगर आप बैंगलोर के एग्जाम्पल ले लें तो यहाँ पे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में प्रॉब्लम है। आप रोड्स ले लो, वॉट एवर, फ्लाईओवर्स, ब्रिजेस, जो भी कंस्ट्रक्ट होना है सब कुछ स्लोली हो रहा है। तो डेफिनेटली एक से बैंगलोर की तरह एक सिटी, वहाँ पे लोग इम्पैक्ट हो रहे हैं इस करप्शन के वजह से। But in districts, yes, there are many projects which have been delayed, which is why towards the end they try to inaugurate some of these things, right? So there is a definite delay as far as infrastructure projects are concerned. But sometimes I think, let's look at 2G scam, for which the DMK had to pay a price, right? It did not affect people.
Right.
But there was just
It
so
is
much
also
media
about
reportage.
Media
ये
and political
perception भी।
campaign.
और ये एक के बाद एक होता जा रहा है। पहले PSI स्कैम हुआ, फिर कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स एसोसिएशन, देन रुपसा, then this whole Nandini Amul. And my Hindi is so good. So yeah, so basically it's just been going on and on, right? तो भूलने की टाइम ही नहीं मिला लोगों को। एक के बाद एक करप्शन चार्जेस हो रहा है। But finally, when all these rallies come together, and perhaps now I think the conversation is shifting to caste quite a bit, right?
Yeah, that's what we want
Yeah,
to come
so-
to next. Yeah.
But just to add one thing, आप अगर देखेंगे तो दो पर्टिकुलर एलिगेशन जो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स है उन्होंने बोला था कि हम सही से काम नहीं कर पा रहे क्योंकि हमको 40% अगर ब्राइब में देना है और हमारा जो कॉस्ट है वो 30 to 40% है, हमारा कोई प्रॉफिट नहीं है, हाथ से हमको पे करना पड़ रहा है, इसीलिए बैंगलोर का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इतना खराब है। Second allegation was about the schools because everybody is impacted with the high, the fees
And can
that
you just
people have
elaborate
to.
a bit on the school? What was
So
the
basically,
accusation?
after the Contractors Association did their press meet and it had become a huge controversy, the Chief Minister said, but there is no proof. Proof nahi hai. Kaha hai proof? So Rupsa was a little smarter. What they did is they recorded a conversation where one of the education officers, he's basically asking a cut for I think it was for the license renewal of the school.
Okay.
So what they said is that the cuts are being taken for two different things. One is for the kids who come under the RTE. The government has to give reimbursement, right? So if I have 30 children under RTE and the government has to reimburse their fees, they'll ask for a cut in that. And for any renewal of school license. So what they were smarter than Contractors Association because
recorded.
they played that clip. So I don't think there is any defamation case against them, if I'm not wrong.
But that small connect, right, Manisha? Because I mean, everybody has most people have kids who go to school, and you're paying the fees, right? If they could, if they could make the connect that you are having to pay exorbitant fees because the school has to pay bribes, and they will obviously pass it on to you. Maybe it would have had a larger resonance.
But I think the
that's
Congress
small.
did not pick on
pursue
this
it
well.
enough.
Initially they did with the Pay CM campaign,
Yeah,
etc. But I feel they lost steam somewhere.
They kind
in
of
between.
didn't
They
pick on
moved
that
on
process.
quickly to the next one. Also because there were so many coming out, I think they just kept moving on.
But like one just quick question, like what Atul was saying, for the common man, in the sense that sometimes like in West Bengal when we were traveling, people would say that to get state schemes, we have to pay. So housing or, infrastructure, basically stuff that is, allocated for the people. Are you hearing those kind of complaints also, that to get the house done or to get a toilet made, that
hasn't come out yet.
That hasn't come out.
Yet.
Okay. So, actually, Atul and I were discussing this morning because the headlines today had Rahul Gandhi front page very clearly saying that if we come to power, we will do a caste census.
Caste census.
Now, this is an issue, of course, we've heard in UP, Bihar, but it seems to be something that the opposition is really picking on in Karnataka too. So, one is, I want to ask Dhanya, Karnataka has already had a caste census. What's happened to that? Did it ever come out? And how much of this is exciting the voters? This idea of if getting a caste census done?
No, there's definitely a section of voters who are very clued into what is a caste census and is it going to come, because it is going to impact them, right? The reservation
Reservations.
numbers. I personally think that the Congress hanging on to this may not work very positively on their behalf, because people are also aware that when Siddaramaiah was Chief Minister, he had sanctioned a caste census and it was not published. So the question everybody is going to ask is, you are asking the union government for the caste census, what happened to your own? Now that caste census, in fact, I asked DK Shivakumar, she asked Siddaramaiah during our interviews recently. Both said the moment we come to power, we'll publish it. But as far as we know, the report was ready, but it was not published because of pressure from all communities. I mean, those
Within the Congress.
Yes, within the Congress, because they did not want their numbers to be out there. I mean, that's an all India phenomenon, right? Like many of the OBC leaders do not want their numbers out. Here, I mean, Pooja can explain that better.
So, for the longest time, and I'm sure you've all heard and we're tired of repeating this, that 17% of our voters are Lingaites and 11% voters are Vokaligas, right? These are very dominant communities, numerically and otherwise, politically as well. Now, from what we understand, there was a leak, okay? This was in 2018, just before the government changed. And according to that leak, the numbers of Lingaites and Vokaligas drastically had reduced, according to the survey. Right?
Okay.
If that comes out, then the careers of many politicians who claim to represent these communities will just be over in a minute.
And it will impact
right?
reservations.
It'll
too.
impact reservation. Also, many people on the ground are now saying, if this does come out, that means that we'll get more jobs, more of our youth will get better education. So there is resonance, but it's about communicating it, saying that this is how it'll impact you, so you have to demand for it, I think.
But see, there
that's
are
the
groups
issue.
which want the caste census to come out too. So
And
they
which is the most vocal of them?
which would be, I mean, those are the groups which will be supporting this demand for the caste census. I mean, if they believe that Siddaramaiah was under some sort of pressure to not release it, and he's making the promise that I will publish it this time, perhaps it will resonate with certain groups.
But Congress Party is trying very hard कि social justice किसी तरह से उसका main election में बन जाए. Siddaramaiah, I think, promised for 75% reservation. Do you think it has any impact on electoral result? 75%.
Are people buying it?
Buying
or
it.
do people
No,
get that he अभी
75
So
बोलने के
he's
लिए बोल रहे
just
हैं?
said this very recently. In fact, it was
Haan.
first on a tweet or something on social media that he put
3
it
days
out.
The central leadership also is again and again saying this. Rahul Gandhi said कि हम करवाएंगे.
We'll remove the reservation
the
cap, he has been
cap.
saying.
Now Siddaramaiah says.
पर लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि अभी तक क्या कर रहे थे? आप तो मतलब 50-60
Because
years
after the
you ruled.
after the Mandal judgment, you did have time. I mean, Tamil Nadu is an example for you where there is 69%
69%,
reservation,
yeah.
which has gone through the courts also. I mean, in the Maratha case, they did not get that sanction, right?
Yeah.
So maybe Karnataka is planning something in the likes of what Tamil Nadu did. But after all, that question still lingers, right? You were in power. Now, I don't want to continue. I mean, I think it's also unfair on us to keep asking a Rahul Gandhi, but
Your
the Congress in the
grandmother,
last 50 years didn't do, your grandmother didn't do, your father didn't do. Maybe he has new politics. Okay, that's fine. But these are genuine questions which
Right.
which will come, right? So I think with the last minute maneuvering that the BJP did of removing the 4% quota for Muslims and sort of rearranging the quota, the Congress has no other option but to
Counter
push
that.
further,
Push further.
which is the reason why they're saying let's remove the reservation cap. 75% was a surprising number considering Tamil Nadu has done 69, which is the highest.
Maybe
in the
Siddaramaiah knows the exact number of the survey.
I asked him that. He claimed no. I
said he
asked him
didn't know.
that. He says,
he
I
would have
haven't
seen
seen
it.
the report. He said, I've not seen the
100%
report.
We can assume so.
I'm not going to comment
it's
on whether I
just-
believe it or not, but he says he's not seen it.
राइट तो ये एक और इसमें इसका बड़ा हिस्सा है जो कि बीजेपी की पॉलिटिक्स है, कम्युनल पॉलिटिक्स. उन्होंने अचानक से मुस्लिम कोटा 4% हटा दिया और उसको फिर इन दो जो सबसे पावरफुल कम्युनिटीज़ हैं उनके अंदर उनमें डिवाइड कर दिया.
Vocaligas and
हाँ, वोकलिगा एंड
लिंगायत.
लिंगायत्स. तो डू यू थिंक कि मुस्लिम पॉलिटिक्स के साथ ये जो और ये लगातार जो चाहे करप्शन है या फिर ये कास्ट सेंसस का इशू है, इसको काउंटर करने के लिए हम एक पूरा प्रोजेक्ट लगातार कर्नाटक में देख रहे हैं जो कि कम्युनल लाइन पे जो चल रहा है. अमित शाह ने 4% पहले वो सरकार ने हटाया. इसके बाद अमित शाह का वो बहुत फेमस स्टेटमेंट है कल
राइट्स हो जाएंगे.
बिल राइट्स, अगर यहाँ पर कांग्रेस आप लाइए और राइट्स होंगे. उसका हालांकि उस पर मीम्स भी बहुत सारे बन रहे हैं कि राइट तो हम ही करेंगे अगर नहीं पावर में रहेंगे तो दैट इज डिफरेंट टेंजेंट. बट it's kind of laboratory type कि यहाँ पर हिजाब भी चल रहा है, यहाँ पर लव जिहाद का भी एंगल बहुत सारा है, यहाँ पर इसके अलावा अब रिजर्वेशन, मुस्लिम रिजर्वेशन का इशू बन गया है। डू यू थिंक कि ये एक बार फिर से किसी भी तरह से बीजेपी का जो के चांसेस हैं उसको फिर से काउंटर पोलराइजेशन या पोलराइजेशन कर पाएगा ओवरऑल लार्जर हिंदू उसमें?
एक और है, आपने टेक्स्ट बुक रिविजन का ये छोड़ दिया।
ये बहुत कठिन सवाल है जो मैं हिंदी में नहीं
You can explain us.
You can first scold him like Bommai scolded Rahul Kawal.
You are bringing this what issue. Are you talking about? Hijab and halal?
These are not election
Also
issues.
halal.
Obsessed with it.
Yeah,
We are not. See, if you noticed recently Amit Shah spoke in Telangana. वहाँ पे भी उन्होंने बोला कि ये जो 4% reservation जो हटाया गया है यहाँ पे मुस्लिम्स के लिए, वो तेलंगाना में भी करेंगे. So yes, it is a laboratory. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And I don't think anybody is surprised or shocked by this last minute 4% reservation removal, because the last 3-4 years we have seen consistently that they're not even hiding the fact that they want to ostracize the Muslim community. We have seen that in Maidans, like the Idgah Maidan here
Maidan
being taken over. We have seen that in the hijab controversy.
Fruit seller.
Halal, and Muslim sellers not being allowed near temple fairs. In every controversy, we have seen that they are not even secretive about it anymore. So, not at all surprising, right, what has been done. But I feel, yes, this will be, for example, this spit halal, which I think started in UP or somewhere.
Thuk Jihad.
Thuk Jihad, yes.
Which primetime show has been done on this on News 18.
Why do you watch primetime shows? First thing,
Occupational hazard
very,
for her.
I always think, what does Manisha, why does Manisha do this?
What do you do for mental peace?
It's Newslaundry's Roji Roti.
Yeah. Anyways, I have all my sympathies. But the point is, some of the stuff which started there are being copied here, and I think some which have started here will be done in Telangana or Andhra Pradesh or Kerala.
Nationwide as well, right?
Yeah,
the revision of the textbooks. We saw that happen in Karnataka over a year ago, right?
With
Where
Tipu.
Not just Tipu, we in fact did a detailed article on how lessons written by Dalit writers, Muslim writers have been dropped, and even Kannadiga heroes have been dropped. Instead, we have lessons on people like Savarkar and Golwalkar, and then talking about unscientific things also, right? About how what is that? The test tube babies were first experimented.
Egg is not healthy.
Egg is not healthy.
No, but the point is the
Vedas
pushback in Karnataka was severe. When the textbooks were revised, all newspapers were writing about it. TV channels, I don't know, I don't watch TV channels much. But newspapers were writing, we were writing, people were discussing, all intellectuals from the left,
not
from
just left,
political, from Kannada groups, they all came together. The pushback was severe in Karnataka, which is why they had to actually go back to some of the old textbooks, not everything. But we don't see that pushback in many other things.
BJP raking up communalism, you see that balancing out corruption and caste census? No. I think it'll have an impact in dulling those voices out.
I think honestly, communal projects have two purposes. One is to serve as a distraction, right, and to keep people busy. Two is to try this elsewhere. So the hardcore vote bank that they want to get through these projects, they already have in their kitty, right?
They don't need to convince them.
They don't need to convince them. They've shown them that we can do this. It's also, I think, to create employment for a lot of these right-wing groups, because in the last 3 years, at least 30 new small groups have started. Right?
Wow.
And we cannot keep track of the new ones, right? So many names.
And these are like splitting from Ram Sene.
Yeah, so there are 3 leaders, and this guy thinks I should lead this group, and he's not being allowed to. He comes out, tweaks the name, and starts.
Like this Idgah Maidan controversy here, we were trying to figure out who is in the forefront and realized there are like 5-6 different groups.
Yeah.
How many
and
people
one
are there
guy
in
is
every
in
group?
3 different groups. So I had to ask him, how do I designate you? You're part of which group now? You're part of all 3 groups. So he said, for this,
I don't agree. I don't agree that it's just a distraction. I feel there is a purpose to it, that there is a vision to doing this slowly, because the threshold of what a secular
normalizing
person
it,
will take, right? That just increases. We're like, okay, little bit is fine, this much is not. So I think it's an experiment
Just
which
keep
goes
pushing
on.
the boundaries
Yeah,
on
and
what.
that's exactly what
Keep
they're doing,
trying
right?
how much you can.
Imagine the textbook stories. Like the other day, I was looking at a story by Al Jazeera about a change in the textbook, and
Darwin.
that Charles Darwin has been removed from textbooks.
Hmm.
I was wondering, almost every week now we have a textbook change story from some state or the other, or from NCRT, and we ourselves have stopped reacting to it, right? So if you accumulate all these stories,
Saturated.
how much have these textbooks actually changed? We don't really know. So I think everything is done slowly, and then.
एंड यू नो मैं बस धनिया की बात में एक और चीज़ जोड़ना चाहता हूँ, ये जो फ्रिंज एलिमेंट्स की बात है, जैसे ये पूरा जो परिवार का जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो उसमें ये एक तरह की डॉक्ट्रिन है. आफ्टर गांधीज मर्डर RSS was banned, and at that time गोलवलकर इन्वेंट दिस डॉक्ट्रिन की हम ए पॉलिटिकल रहते हुए वी विल हैव आनुषंगिक संगठन, हिंदी में कहते हैं, आई डोंट नो कि उनके साथ साथ के जो एसोसिएट्स हैं, उसी समय BHP बना, बजरंग दल बना, ABVP बना, वो these are आनुषंगिक संगठन, but they are not directly we cannot establish any kind of relation with them, कि ये दोनों आपस में एक दूसरे जुड़े, but they all support to the परिवार RSS.
तो इनका जो विजन है ये वो इम्प्लीमेंट
But
कर
ये problematic भी हो रहा है यहाँ पे, like that Puttur, there are some places where these hardcore groups are now standing against the BJP in elections.
उनको लग रहा है BJP बहुत सॉफ्ट है हिंदुत्व के मामले में. तो
Even Pramod
तो ये
Madhale
तो
is standing against the BJP.
Even in North, that who did this Sansad, Dharm Sansad, Narsimha Nand Saraswati, and he also feel like descended BJP वाले कुछ कर ही नहीं रहे, हमको करना पड़ेगा, हमको बहुत ज़्यादा करने की ज़रूरत है.
No, but there's definitely a connection, right? Like the Indian Express had a story recently about how hate speech cases have been dropped.
Yeah.
Now, if you go through the list, there's a Hindu Jagrana Vedike person. There are right-wing groups who protested outside a family's house in Mandya, where a Hindu woman had married a Muslim man. They are not BJP cadres, but all right-wing groups have been, their cases have been taken back, right? So they all work to complement each other. For example, when the Muslim traders were not allowed in temple fairs, on the ground there are these unrelated Hindu groups coming together. But in the assembly, the BJP will give power to that whole structure that, look, these people cannot come to these temple fairs. So I think they're a very well-oiled
anti-conversion bill, right? So, before the draft of the anti-conversion bill was prepared by the Bommai government, there was a delegation led by a former Bajrang Dal, very senior leader here in Karnataka. And he said that we've all come together, we've prepared a draft and we're presenting that to the Chief Minister. And he happened to share that with us and he wrote an article on that.
I think Pooja did a very nice article then, because she had predicted, I think at least 1.5 years before that this is going to come, since the church attack started. So there were a lot of these small, not church attacks, the pastors were attacked, these prayer halls were attacked. And suddenly, see, it stopped. After the anti-conversion bill comes, you don't hear of any such
prepare
attacks.
the ground.
So they built a narrative around it. They also prepared a draft and they gave it to the Chief Minister.
So
It's kind of pressure group, but it's kind of violent.
First there are
This is
people
what's
attacking,
disturbing
there are
about-
people who make the draft bill, then the government brings
No,
in
the
bill.
government, what they introduced in the assembly, what they tabled in the assembly was so similar to what these guys had
been
shared with
demanding.
us. So clearly they've kind of used that as a basis.
But that is the thing with communalism. Once, see, you cannot control this beast.
Yeah.
Once you've unleashed
Frankenstein.
it, you want to keep riding the tiger, but you cannot control it. And so I guess at times they're aligned, at times they, part ways, at times they're enemies, at times they, work together. But I just want to ask one question to Pooja, because you've traveled a lot in that area, coastal Karnataka. You've reported a lot on hijab, especially during the hijab ban. Now, I want to understand a little bit about the pulse of the people there. Now, of course, there are these fringe groups. What I want to understand from you, I guess, is that do we hear of them and do we see them all the time in the news? Because they're just the loudest, but they're not the majority. That's not what a majority of people living there feel or support, such politics. Or is it very much part of culture?
No,
of
it is a
how
part of
people
the
believe
discourse.
in, you think so?
In coastal Karnataka at least. And for me, I was going to colleges.
And what is the reason, if you can explain? Like, why is this particular belt historical
I'll just take the
or social or
hijab
political?
example, right? And I travelled to 3 districts and my colleague was travelling through Udupi and Dakshin Kannada. For me, what was disturbing is, ABVP speaking the language of BJP, Bajrang Dal is not that surprising. I mean, they have identified themselves politically, right? But you know, supposed apolitical students using the same kind of language as these groups, saying that, so the narrative they were pushing is that the Hindu students are being disadvantaged, and they had said, you know, if you're not allowed to wear a saffron shawl, if you're not allowed to, let's say, wear bindi or some other sign of religion, why should they be allowed? And that victimhood narrative had caught on. And there were a lot of WhatsApp forwards at that point of time.
But
being shared.
was that the truth, that Hindus weren't allowed to wear bindi?
No, that's
and
not completely true. Some
because that's also a bit unequal in that sense.
No,
Like,
that's
either don't
not
have
true.
a uniform or have a uniform.
That's not true. They were allowed to wear bindi, but you know, so nobody before that really wore saffron shawls to school. Suddenly they said, I want
That's
to wear
not
a saffron
part of a
shawl.
religious
It's not
identity,
something
right?
they ever did before. Now they're pushing the boundary, provoking the management, and when they say, no, you can't do this, then they'll say, oh, if she can do that, why can't I do this? And then they started
No,
saying
but she was
things
asking
like,
why is coastal Karnataka different?
So coastal Karnataka has had a culture of very, very influential leaders from Muslim and Christian community. And that has been used to polarize Hindu youth, saying that, oh, they have power, they have money, look at them, they're taking what is ours. That has, I think it's an economic thing that has turned into a religious.
So even with the whole fruit seller controversy, the Hindu Jagran Vedika, I was reading the statement where they basically said that Hindus are growing fruit, they're doing the hard labor of, you know, doing the agricultural bit, and Muslims as middlemen are buying fruit and exploiting them and making money by being. So again, that economic angle that we do the labor, but they are reaping the.
But it is
you know,
not just fruit
but is
sellers,
that
right?
true?
Any Muslim vendor was not allowed. Even if they were selling bangles, they're
But
selling whatever.
अभी तो यहाँ पर पूरा वो कैंपेन ही है ना कि भाई इनको इकोनॉमिक बायकॉट होना
But what I
चाहिए।
understand
अब उसमें
is
कोई
there any truth to this in the sense of businesses being controlled? I mean,
No.
like you said.
But a fruit
no.
vendor is not
Yeah,
a business, right? I
exactly.
mean, that's like the
Small
bottom.
business.
It's the
Yeah,
bottom of
yeah.
what you call the pyramid.
So it's completely.
Yeah, I mean,
It is not as if some.
exactly. I mean,
Nobody's job is being taken away. He's trying to, you know, earn a livelihood. Nobody stops a Hindu from coming
Yeah.
and putting up another stall, right? I mean,
No, I'm not. I mean, that anyway doesn't matter. Even if they have a business or they don't have a
and
business,
who are
they
you
have the right.
targeting? You are targeting a vendor who's making daily wages by selling something. Is that how you even fight a religious fight? I mean, if they had the guts.
if
why
there's a
did-
mafia, for example.
No, I mean, look at how they positioned the Atiq Ahmed story, right? Or even you take on a, I don't want to give ideas, but big Muslim industrialist.
That's what I guess I'm trying to get
Yeah.
to that this is completely just fictitious. There's no on ground.
And
any
it's
sort of.
illegal, right? It's unconstitutional.
Of course, I mean,
Nothing
that
else.
there
It's
we
illegal, it's
cannot-
unconstitutional. And to play on this victimhood continuously to deprive the people of their daily wages is just abominable.
There was
Right.
one video that came out and it was really heartbreaking.
Of the watermelons
Yes,
being
and
smashed.
I had spoken to that guy and he'd been doing that for 30 years outside that very temple. 30 years.
Even the guy here, which we had covered, ice cream or
yes,
ice
his
cream-
cart was taken
His
away.
cart was
Yeah.
taken away. I think for the next 2 or 3 months, his cart was not given back. And he was too scared to even tell us that because he said, if you guys put it out, then the police will never give it. Because someone said he has spat. It was not
And do you
ice cream.
see
I
a
think he was
popular
making
cotton candy or
yes.
something?
When you're reporting these stories, do you see a popular support for such kind of things, or apathy, or
So I realized
This
that
Thook jihad has had some kind of
Impact.
resonance. That is not only in Karnataka, even in Kerala, there was a lot of discussion about it. But see, there is 1% of, not 1%, one section of population which are gullible, which will believe it. One section which is already communal, which will anyway believe it. So the whole
and
point
one
is,
section that doesn't care?
yeah,
which
that
is
doesn't,
just like-
that will not believe
See,
it.
they
right?
may believe
Yeah.
it, but my point is, will they next time not go to a Muslim fruit vendor? I don't think so.
But there are a lot of people
They
who do
believe-
that.
yeah.
There are a lot of people who do that. They
But
search out and they
I
don't
hope
go.
that section is small still.
Yeah. The economic boycott is very much real.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no doubt about it.
My God, that is terrifying to.
Yeah.
And that is not something that we hear about a lot in the national media. Of course, we hear of sporadic events, but as what is really happening
But
in
the
terms of
National
economic-
TV
pushback.
media doesn't cover anything. So therefore, we should not be talking about them.
Okay.
Atiq Ahmed is in any way affecting this election? Is an issue or is just? I heard कि somewhere कि people are
Well, Yogi is giving
talking about.
speeches, so.
तो
Yogi
कल
is-
परसों मैं नॉर्थ कर्नाटका गई थी वहाँ पे मैंने देखा लोग योगी मंड्या में थे उस टाइम पे तो उनका स्पीच देख रहे थे टीवी पे बहुत ध्यान से सुन रहे थे तो मैंने पूछा उनसे कि आप पसंद करते हैं क्या लोगों का मानना है कि वो जो यूपी में जो शूट आउट हुआ एक्स्ट्रा जुडिशियल मर्डर हुआ वैसे ही यहाँ पे भी करेंगे तो एक कंट्रोल रहेगा सोसाइटी में. There is a section of
But that is,
people
I
who
think,
are
regular
being-
mentality.
Haan.
Even in Telangana, we saw, right?
Correct.
When the alleged rapists were shot
Were
dead,
shot
dead,
they-
everybody was like, wow,
Rejoicing. They were
They showered
yeah,
petals.
exactly.
Right.
So that is, I think, in general India. That's
Yes.
us.
Instant
We like
justice.
instant-
No, but
Instant
that's
justice.
also what the government projects, right? That we are, I don't know,
Decisive.
hyper masculine or
Correct,
whatever, and we do these things. We can shoot down people. I mean, that is not just BJP. There are lots of other governments also which do that.
Right. So we're going to wrap this show up. But before we wrap it up, I think there's one very important investigation that our viewers should hear about. What the News Minute did this week. Early this week, you guys came out with a report which basically showed us how vulnerable our data is. Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about that investigation and what it says about the integrity of electoral data?
So we started the whole investigation into data and how data is being used from November last year. I mean, from September onwards. We've done two big stories. One is an organization called Chillume, which had contracts by the government to actually go do surveys, but they went beyond what the government order was. They gave badges saying booth level officers to their people. So they would come to your house and say, I'm a booth level officer. So you would think, government officer, I have to give information, right? They were not collecting just age, name, etc. They were asking for voting preference, which party do you vote for, what caste you belong to, and they were putting it on a private app.
Wow.
So, and
Posted
this
on a
was,
foreign server.
posted on a foreign server, and we found at least one BJP MLA who has bought this for I think 18 or 20 lakhs at that time, and connections with other BJP MLAs. But I'm not saying just the BJP. I think a lot of parties were buying this information. So when we did the story, they were shut down. Then now another company has come, which is selling. See, in their server, we can only, it's called voter data management. We can see only 6 to 7 columns, but they have columns hidden. So if you pay 25,000 rupees, you get everything like Dhanya is the voter, you get who else votes in our house, you get the phone number, everything. So it is targeted reach out, right? But that's not the only danger. What officials in the election commission told us is that they believe that there could be UPI transfer of bribes.
Oh my God. Directly to voters.
Yes, I mean, why not? I mean, we have seen in states like Tamil Nadu.
That's really digital India.
Yes, yeah. So they are looking at it. I don't know if
You
they'll
can
ever
track the corruption.
bring it out, but they fear that this information this collection of information is not merely to give politicians this, that they
Data.
can send manifestos. It is so that there is targeted bribing of voters.
My God, that's huge if that's happening.
No, and I'm also surprised by how the other media tries to play it down. Like, this whole tendency of if one person does a story, the other person has to play it down. But this is a problem which is going to impact all of us, our democracy, right? Our voting rights. If people are going to be bribed by UPI transfers, or if somebody is going to know my voting preference, and based on that, I'll get 1,000 rupees extra to ensure that I go vote.
And the election commission knows of this. This is the election commission telling you this, that they fear that there could be UPI transfers.
Yes, in fact, the election commission is the complainant in this second case. So hopefully,
So it's a huge story that
Yes.
everyone should pick up.
of course, and I hope the investigation finds something. I don't know, but this is just one company, right? We don't know how many are there. We don't know in which all states they're already functioning.
So you can read that report on the newsminute.com. We're also going to have a bunch of ground reports coming your way soon. We have our reporter Sumedha who's traveling, and she's going to be filing her first report from Bombai's constituency. So you can catch that. Atul and I will try and get you some interviews, some fun from rallies, some ground reports too. And before we let you guys go, we have to ask you, this election season you will have a lot of Delhi media come in, and every election you have a lot of Delhi media come in. So give them tips and advice.
Don't come.
Don't be
Okay,
mean.
do not say Kannada. Do not say Karnataka.
Natak in Karnataka.
Banned.
Nataka
That
in
is India
Karnataka.
Today's favorite.
Banned.
Nataka in
Nataka in
Karnataka.
Karnataka.
I've seen it for
and there is
15
Nataka
years.
all the time, and there's no new headline. It's just
Yes.
Nataka in Karnataka.
Be a little more
I think we
creative.
also put it initially because we had this TV hangover. All of us came from
And then
TV.
we
and we were
said,
like, stop
yeah.
it. Do not say Nataka in Karnataka.
So it's Kannada, it's Karnataka.
Yeah.
There is an A, use it.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. That's it from our very first election show. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to get you a lot more stuff. So stay tuned. Keep watching another election show. Sab dekh liya.
अब ये देखिए